Three,
Yippee.
two, one. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is the notorious, glorious V, the Girl Economist, coming to you live with my main man, the myth, the mystery himself. Some say that Tom Cruise goes to sleep at night dreaming of becoming him in the next action movie. Others say that James Bond was looking that he is the real Q, the inventor of all things gadgets that James Bond uses. Also, some say that he's also the inventor of chocolate and encryption. All we know is that he is known as John J. Singleton. And with that being said, Johnny, how are you, buddy?
Well, I'm great, man. Thank you. And the truth is, I am Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yes, he is
I'll just
also
say that
Satoshi
now.
Nakamoto.
Woo, 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 woo.
Then we have with us the production assistant known as Kung Fu, who is working the airwaves, making sure that this broadcast is coming out crispy and clean. And with that all out of the way,
Go
John.
back to finding my stapler, please. Thank you.
Yes, we'll buy you a new staple. We promise you, Kung Fu. We promise. And with that all out of the way, John, what's going on, buddy? It's another day in virus land.
Yeah.
More people are getting the virus. More old people with severe underlying pre-existing medical conditions are starting to die. It's horrific, man. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah, well, it still hasn't caught up with the flu yet, killing people, I think.
John, yesterday I was on Rogue and I was comparing and contrasting the amount of people that die from diarrhea
Okay.
versus
Really?
the
People
coronavirus.
actually die from that?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
diarrhea kills a little over 2,100 people per day.
Wow.
Per day, yeah, globally.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-huh. And that's why, yesterday at the 48-minute and 20-second mark on yesterday's broadcast of Rogue
Okay.
Mornings, I was detailing the death of people who die from diarrhea versus those who die from coronavirus.
Wow.
And John, if I documented, honestly, I said this before with flu. John, imagine if you and I went on the air, we documented every single person that dropped dead from diarrhea. You would never go to the toilet.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Right, because you'd be
you would
afraid of the
spend-
toilet, right?
You would spend your days eating cheese trying to constipate yourself.
Yes.
Well, not if you're lactose intolerant.
Well,
I don't care.
oh my God. Exactly. But what do you want to talk about, John? Lots of things going on. Last time we were on, we talked about practical privacy applications that people could utilize in order to really improve their privacy and their station in life. Because while all the sideshows and shenanigans are happening, the Fed is still owning pretty much everything that you do. Your data is being stolen, and your privacy is pretty much non-existent. So where do you want to begin with this, bro?
Well, if it even matters at all, I listened to an interview with John McAfee where he's talking about the Samsung 7 could not be rooted. Was it the 7, I think? And I think that's the key element, right? That means you can prevent someone from taking control of your phone.
Correct.
Root access. And so you were mentioning you have a phone. You did something. It looks like you've already gone down this path. And Android
absolutely.
looks to be like So what is, I can't even pronounce this, Huawei or something like that?
Oh, Huawei.
Huawei?
Yeah, you know how you got the Huawei gas stations in the South and in Florida and some places like that, you got Huawei gas stations?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like saying Huawei, but just say, Wawa. Instead of saying Wawa, just say Huawei.
Okay.
Huawei.
That's more secure, just as secure. I mean, no one can get root access. Is that the deal?
Correct. The thing with Huawei and Samsung, see, the whole thing, people always ask me, V, what's the most secure cell phone? And Apple, who are a bunch of, I don't even know where to begin with Apple, bunch of idiots. But the thing with Apple is that they'll run advertisements about how secure and privacy, and we care about privacy. No, they don't. Every year, Google and other companies point out to Apple all the vulnerabilities they have with iOS. Last year alone, there were 213 vulnerabilities with iOS. And out of the 213 vulnerabilities that iOS had, you know how many they fixed, John?
About 0?
Close to 0, about 3.
3. So
yes.
What about the person who has iOS, Apple phone? He's using it in his house. He's on his wireless Wi-Fi. Does that give access to his entire network?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that Apple will say, oh, we don't share your privacy, everything's this, that, and the other. But the problem is, a lot of the apps do. A lot of the apps are collecting data. Everybody's collecting data. You're having because Apple realizes you can't keep selling super high expensive cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice the change in Apple and their trajectory in the last several years is they have changed from a hardware company selling hardware into a services-based company. So in order to become a more effective services-based company, what do you have to do? Well, you have to know your demographics. How do you know your demographics, especially in this day and age when you're competing against Google, when you're competing against Facebook, when you're competing against Microsoft, and you're competing against Amazon? Well, you're going to have to mine your client's data. And so Apple is, while putting on this fake, fraudulent, oh, we care about privacy, we care. I like how Ricky Gervais says, most of you people think you're woke because you walk around an Apple device, a company that has cell phones made in a sweatshop.
Right.
And so they present this image of them being so caring about privacy.
That was a great Netflix show.
It is. And they were comparing about how they care about how much they care about privacy and whatnot, but the fact is they're very vulnerable. And the crux of it is this: there's one major company. Now people ask me, V, how would you buy a cell phone? How would you lock it down? How would you make your cell phone secure? And where do you go? Where do you look for? Because when you go look online, you can get articles from all over the place saying, oh, this phone, that phone has this vulnerability, that vulnerability. What I'm worried about the most is what does Cellbrite say? Cellbrite is an Israeli firm, and they are the main go-to contractor for the United States government, the European Union, and the UK, as well as Israel, to crack encrypted phones. They're the ones that you would call. And so the heads of Cellbrite were recently interviewed, and I forgot which magazine it was, but they were interviewed. And during the interview, they were asked straight out, because they deal with not only government, they also deal with law enforcement, state and local as well as federal level law enforcement. They were asked, what is the easiest phones you guys can crack? Without any hesitation, like, oh, yeah, iPhones. Well, what's the hardest to crack? Well, the hardest to crack will be, one of the phones, Android's gotten extremely difficult to crack. And then Samsung is extremely difficult to crack. We can crack a Samsung phone, but we're only able to get metadata out of it. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And then they said, well, what about and the metadata is not really giving you your messages, your where you've been, your location service, and all that. It's just like little bits of data that you really have a hard time trying to put together if you're a law enforcement person. Then Cellbrite was asked, and this is recent. This is from, I think, end of 2019.
Okay.
Then Cellbrite was asked, well, what's the hardest phone that you can crack, that you can't crack? Huawei. It's impossible.
Oh, okay.
And the reason being is they're using a very high-grade encryption.
Okay.
They make it so that the dynamic encryption that they're utilizing within their system is very difficult for them to break. Same thing with the Samsungs as well. Samsung uses what's called Samsung Knox, which is U.S. military grade compliant. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, so Android by itself is an operating platform, and the difference between Android and iOS is this: Android is open source.
Okay.
So when people think Android, they think Google, and Google owns Android. No, Google doesn't own Android, and nobody owns Android. It is open source. It's code-developed. Google, what they do is they offer what's called GMS, Google Mobile Services. GMS is what makes Android attractive or more user-friendly for much of the global population, especially the global market, like in the United States, in Europe, and around the world. GMS, Google Mobile Services, is your Gmail, your YouTube, your Google Maps, your Google Messenger, your Gboard, all this chock full of software and services that Google brings. At the end of the day, it makes your life easier. Yeah. It's very convenient. It's really easy to deal with. That's what makes Android. But there's other flavors of Android. They've always been. Like if you go to any one of these Android forums, these guys are always running what's called custom ROMs. Okay. And these custom ROMs are basically customized versions of Android. And even in fact, recently, John, they had a company called Cyanogen. And Cyanogen was running their own flavor of Android. Now, today, if I ask most people, hey, you know what, after iOS and Android, what's the most popular operating system? Most people don't know.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that the fastest growing operating system right now is called Kai, K-A-I-O-S, Kai OS.
Okay.
And what Kai OS is a flavor of Android. So Android, when you get out of the whole Google mobile services realm, is very similar to what you find in the Linux world, where you have Lineage OS, and you have Kai OS, and you have Sailfish, and you have all these flavors of Android that you can ratchet up your security. You can ratchet up how privately you want, and you don't have to use Google mobile services. You can use other kinds of app stores that are available that offer open source, that open secure, and that offers alternatives to what people would use on a day in and day out basis, John. You know,
so you mentioned ROM. So is it the read-only memory? Is it also hardware and software, the operating system that's giving you this encryption?
Yeah, the software will go ahead, and based on how this, you can take the software when you put a custom ROM into your Android phone.
Yeah.
You can, based on the custom ROM, you can go ahead and have that ROM encrypt the entire hardware and the entire phone. So you can't, they can't. It's next to impossible to crack it. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can run into that regard. So in terms of security, Android is going to give you the most security, especially if you want to start tinkering with it. You could also make your iOS, your Apple phones more secure as well. So, if we want to, we can get into a little bit of that. But what's your take and what's your thoughts, John?
Well, I wouldn't even mess with Apple. I would definitely use an Android phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I guess we can start talking about, one of the biggest problems, John, that, you and I have talked about, we've discussed this in the past is my God, it's like you download an app from an app store, and now your app is just leaking data everywhere you go. It knows what restaurants you walked into. Yeah. It knows everything about you. How do you stop it?
Yeah.
And there's two ways of doing that. One for Android, one for iOS. Now, I will give some iOS solutions, but the iOS solutions that I offer is extremely limited because Apple says we have a beautiful walled garden. It's so safe in our garden. It's a lie. It's a bloody damn lie. But even if you're if you're caught in their system, you still have a way of limiting some of that data bleed that I like to call with iOS devices. And I don't completely hate Apple. I'm an operating system agnostic. I have everything from Mac OS, which I love. I love Mac OS. I have Linux. I have Windows. I have Google Chrome. I have Android. I have an iPhone. I have them all. I have every single operating system known to humanity. Okay, and I like to choose what works best for me. Some things I use it for work because it's fast, streamlined, but it's not the most private thing. But my most precious thing, I keep it real private and I keep it secure. But anyway, let's get into it. One of the ways we can stop data bleed, John, and for anybody that's listening, there is an app you could download, and it's called NetGuard. Okay, you could download NetGuard. That's NetGuard, NetGuard. It's from the Google Play Store, and then there's a version of it for Apple iPhone as well. It's called Lockdown. Okay, so you go to the Apple iPhone store, the Apple App Store, and you can download Lockdown. And then once you download NetGuard or Lockdown, you can go directly to your phones, and you could pinpoint exactly what apps have access to what, okay? And then you could also, lock down what they're able to disseminate. Case in point, I downloaded NetGuard for my Android devices. And when I scanned through NetGuard, I realized, holy crap, there's this financial calculator that I downloaded that's all of a sudden utilizing a great deal of my data. Now, why the hell would a calculator app require data like this? Why is it doing data bleed? What's it sending out to the quote-unquote app developer? So I cut that off. I can still utilize the application. The application works flawlessly, but now there's no data bleed.
Wow.
You completely put a cork into it. So what NetGuard and Lockdown does, it scans through every single application you got, and you could clamp down exactly at a very granular level what they're able to share with their developers. This is key. Okay, this is very important and very key if you want to stop the data bleed, John.
Well, John actually has a really good point about don't confuse security with surveillance. It's one of the bigger things you should talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, go ahead, man.
Well, this, okay, it's open source, right? NetGuard.
NetGuard is, yeah. NetGuard is available on Android, on Google Play Store, as well as open source application stores, which I'll get into some app store alternatives later on. Go ahead, John.
So think about how open source works. People like you and me that are tech people that are interested in privacy, they're writing code and they're uploading it to the central database, maybe GitHub or something, and it's being developed. And so that's being adopted, and as people like it, well, then it gets popular, and we're talking about it now. But things that are developed by corporate bureaucracy don't have those benefits. They're just following one program. So I think just by the fact that it's open source is part of the security.
I mean, I can't remember how many times, like, you know, you had, I forgot the name of the guy. He was the guy who helped develop Unix, okay? And Unix and even Linus Torvalds, the guy who invented Linux, will tell you that, you know, true power, if you want to take power away from the corporations, you want to take power away from what we have as corporatism in this modern age, where you see the amalgamation of government and corporation working in tandem to exploit, to make market, to make merchandise of its own citizenry and population, as well as customers. The kill shot to that system is open source.
Yeah.
Then you end it. Why? And people say, well, how do you know if somebody could put a backdoor into an Android code or a Linux code? Well, you can't. Why? Because there are literally millions of eyeballs that have their eyes on the source code. Okay? Apple, good luck with that. Microsoft, good luck with that. You know? And this is what people don't get.
And I remember I was there when Unix was invented. That was just following the people using punch cards.
Yep.
I was there when they invented Unix.
Exactly. Unix, and then GNU.
GNU, right? Yeah.
GNU, and again, the guys who came out of Unix started GNU.
Right.
They're all, you know, open source software advocates, and they knew that and why were they? Because, you know, when I first heard about open source guys, I was like, these guys are crazy. You know what are they bitching about? And they're like, no, look, if you don't go to open source now, you're going to regret it in the future. And this was in the 90s, John. I laughed at these guys. And now look at us. We're in 2020. We're like, holy crap, those guys were right.
Yeah, you got to have it. And the nice thing about open source is you can take an open source platform or package and you can develop it and make it proprietary. That's what it's for.
Exactly correct, man. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, look at you look at Mac OS, right? It's based off of the Xerox operating system, which was also based off of Linux. Android is Linux. Much of the internet works off of Linux. Most people don't even realize that. It's originally started as open source that's been customized and built out in order to the point where it eventually becomes proprietary. And that's where we are.
Yeah, and when you hear them talking about security or privacy, it's the opposite. When that's spoken out in public by these not government, but corporate people, it's you know, it is surveillance. When they talk about it's for your security, no, it's for their surveillance.
Correct. Absolutely right. The next thing I think people could do is get a really good solid VPN, John.
Yeah.
Any particular ones that you like, or?
Well, I have one. I like PureVPN. I have an article of that on my site, but I would recommend this, that you find a VPN that's not free, right? Because it's not free. So even if it's free, it's not. So pay for it, and usually they'll ask you to pay for 3 years in advance, which is probably worth it. Check your reviews, you know, see what people think of it, but definitely get one that you have to pay for.
Absolutely. And when you have a VPN, just, you know, and then you combine it with something like a NetGuard or a lockdown, now you have a more granular control,
right?
To make sure that, you know, you have that safety. The second thing that people could do is they can go in and they can go ahead and they could encrypt the DNS of their Android phone, and that's one thing they could do. And I don't think you can do that with iOS at all, but you can limit some of the thing. but on Android you could you can cut that off.
Guys, feel free to open
yeah.
the chat window. I'm putting some notes there that I will eventually in post-production of the video. You guys are doing great so far. I will make available as well.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, great. Okay. And now NetGuard is G-U-A-R-D or G-A-U-R-D?
G-A-U-R-D. NetGuard.
Okay, so they switched the 2 letters there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just so you know. All right. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So so a good quality VPN. You get the NetGuard. You lock down your DNS or your domain name system. That's within Android. In Android, you go into the general thing and you shut that down. That's going to, again, that DNS is vital, especially for servers like in Google and whatnot, to help in triangulation, helps with your location services, helps with where you're going, what you're buying, what you're tapping into, what are you looking up, and all that. So when you go ahead and you lock that down on Android, you again take that away, And I think for iOS, there's I believe it, and I don't know if it's still the App Store, but I think it's called DNS Cloak. If I'm not mistaken, you might want to download that, and that also limits it. The other thing, John, that people could do is limit ad tracking on an iPhone, and you can do that. Right. If you Google how to limit ad tracking on an iPhone, there are steps that are available right now that you can go onto Google. You can type in how to limit ad tracking on an iPhone and follow the steps to start shutting off your location services, the ad personalization, and all that stuff. You can limit that on the iPhone greatly, and on the Android, you can completely turn off ad personalization on your Google account. You can shut that down. And unfortunately, since I don't have a screen share available attached to my phone, I don't have that capability as of yet where I could just, my new phone has screen record, but I don't know how to maybe on a future broadcast, I'll show you guys using my screen record, how to go into your phones on both Apple and Android, how to go into your settings and configure this. Yeah. But in the meantime, go onto the, Google, type in, DNS encryption for Android, DNS cloak for iOS, and they'll show you the steps on how to do that. And then you go into limit ad tracking, and then you turn off the location services for Android as well. That stops.
Okay. Yeah. And so you have whatever app you want to use, free or not, and there's no more data being reported or collected. You have the full functionality of the app. That's cool.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Now on Android, you get a lot more out of it. On iOS, you get to mitigate a lot of it, but there's still that data bleed that occurs. Then the coup de grace, if you really want to get out of the whole entire thing, you got to stop using GMS, which is Google Mobile Services.
Yeah.
And so people say, well, okay, V, I want to completely shut down. I don't want to even use Google anymore. And some people will have the Google Play Store. They'll follow the steps where they go ahead and they use NetGuard. They do a DNS encryption. They limit the tracking. They disable location services on their Android phone. Okay. They turn off the ad personalization on their Google account. They go through all of those individual steps, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to take it a step further. I'm not going to use any Google app whatsoever. So in other words, the phone still has Google apps on the phone, but it's dormant. It's shut off. It's not giving or bleeding out data as it was before. So now they'll say, what can I utilize in place of GMS? What kind of app store could I download in place of it? What kind of web browser could I use in place of Google Chrome per se? And this is where Android leaves iOS in the dust, because there's simply no alternatives for iOS unless, of course, you jailbreak your phone. And I don't know how jailbreaking works with Apple these days. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe Kung Fu could comment on that. I'm not sure. But here's some of the things you can do, John. Once you finally decide to take the leap and do not want to use GMS, Google Mobile Services anymore, which is your Gmail, your YouTube, and all that other stuff, you can go onto a alternate app store called F-Droid. Okay. And F-Droid is an app store that is filled with free open source software. They even have third-party open source YouTube client software. These are high quality software. Now you can have your YouTube. You can log into your YouTube account and whatnot, but now you're going through a third party, so you're not bleeding the data like you used to, right? Now you're watching YouTube videos and whatnot, so you still have that capability. They also have free open source alternatives to an email app. They have open source alternatives to web browsing. Like for instance, like if you want to seriously go web browsing, DuckDuckGo, which is when you research DuckDuckGo, it is the search engine that Google. I mean, they went so far as to open up a competitive URL, which is DuckDuckGo, in order to get people. That's how worried Google is with DuckDuckGo. People think it's brave. No, it's not brave. DuckDuckGo is a serious threat to Google. Even though DuckDuckGo is minuscule, they're small, they're nowhere near. It's like a David and Goliath story here, but DuckDuckGo is a very good alternative for Google. It's actually, and you're getting an actual real search engine versus something that used to be a search engine, but now it's more curated. It's curated search. So you're going to get all the mainstream bullshit, up front, and the real stuff that you want to look for to dig deep, you're not going to find it.
So if you're using what about a private? If I open a private window, right?
Yeah.
That data is being tracked. That
Absolutely.
Alone, that doesn't do anything, right?
Correct. So
DuckDuckGo,
you can download the DuckDuckGo browser, which does not track you, which has an encrypted HTTPN, right? It also and what it also does is that after you're done, as soon as you log off, it completely erases all your history. Every single time you log off, just wipes everything out. So it's super secure. And so that's one of the solutions that you have. Now some people say, well, vegan, that's all great. I like the open source stuff. But I like Spotify. I like I still like Instagram. I still like to follow these hot girls on Instagram. What do I do, V?
Right.
So there's alternatives to that. So there's two ways of attacking it on Android. Number one, if you go to this website called APK Pure, apkpure.com, or you Google APK Pure, it'll take you directly to a third-party app store where, again, the source code is looked at. They have security certs given on the apps. Well, you have feedback where people say this is a good app. There's no spyware or malware on it.
Wow, cool.
And now guess what? You can go there and guess what? Your Spotify is there. Your Instagrams are there. Your YouTube's like all the apps that you would possibly use is there. Now you directly download it from APK Pure. You sideload it into your phone directly from the site. You can actually save the website as an app onto your desktop. Now you have a full functioning app, an app store where you can get all your mainstream apps. And then the third thing you could do is there's another app store called Aptoid, APTOID. And that's another app store where you have security certifications where people say, hey, this app is free of all malware, this, that, and the other, just like as it is in the Google Play Store, just like as it is in the Apple Store, where you're going to get an app. It's not going to be malware. It's not going to be crap. It's not going to mess with your system. And you could download, again, some mainstream apps like your Spotify and your Instagrams and all that other stuff, and your Snapchats and all that stuff, right? And your TikToks, whatever, right? That's Aptoid. And so now you have all of it. Now people say, well, what about Google Maps? What's a good map alternative? I don't want to use Waze. One of the map alternatives is an offline browser-based map alternative called OSMN. OSMND. It's OSMAND. Okay, that's how it's spelled. It stands for OpenStreet Map.
Can you post that in the chat for everybody, and I'll upload it to YouTube later?
Absolutely. Let me
Thank
put
you.
it here. It's called OSMAND, and that means Open Street. I'm spelling street wrong. OpenStreet Map Automated Network. Okay. I'm sorry. Automated navigation. I apologize.
You know what people really are interested also to hear from you guys would be, what about all the passwords that we save, right? We all don't have this
Is it good to
elephant-like
keep them in
memory.
is it a central location? Is it good to put them in a central place or
Or
keep them
even
separate?
store them on your computer or write them down, which could be horrible if your house or something, you lose them. You know, what services do you guys use? And then what have you used? And maybe you don't want to share exactly, but there are
Yeah,
people.
sure.
Well, on passwords, for me, I I don't like to use too much software to keep track of them. I literally have a file that I do not indicate that it's passwords in there at all.
Yep.
I don't, yeah, I just call it info or something,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
I put it in there. So, or I'll handwrite it in a journal if it's that important.
Mm-hmm. What I do is I have a software-based solution to it. I use LastPass.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
it's very secure. But I take it another way. But what I put in LastPass, if you were to pull up my LastPass, the actual data of like files and accounts, this, that, and the other, it's arranged with numbers and things in a way that if an outside person looks at it, they wouldn't know what the heck they're looking at. Now Kung Fu had an example of this in one of my Moleskin journals. You know, I was sharing one of the keyword phrases for a company wallet that we share. When Kung Fu opened up the wallet, he goes, "Hey man, where's the?" I mean, Kung Fu, you want to comment on that? Like, you know, I mean, what you were looking at, it didn't look like a word phrase.
Yeah, it's like an encryption of a way, right?
Yep.
Like one of the things with LastPass, or the one that I love the most, which is KeyPass XC, which has been around for a long time. They don't own anything, whether even if it is, over the web. They kind of encrypt your password, your master password at the end of the day. So even if someone does hack LastPassword or LastPass or 1Password or any of these places, they're just getting access to your account. They won't get access to any of your passwords.
Wow.
Yep.
Is there software that could kind of fill the gaps in? Yeah, I'm sure if you were to name, put everything as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or
Yeah, right.
stupid, but LastPass is okay.
Yeah. But whatever you put on there, just make it look like it makes sense to you. You don't want to look
Right.
like, you don't want to type username for bank account,
Right.
password for bank account, blah. No, you want to make it look as ambiguous as possible.
Yeah, because if you lost your computer, someone could just do a keyword search for all your files and find the word password in all your files.
Yep. Exactly.
So all this stuff we're talking about is for, probably this software is illegal, right? I mean, it's for people that want to break the law and stuff, right? That have something to hide. You know,
No.
like we got stuff to hide.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, the merchandise that's being sold. We're the merchandise that's being traded. We're the merchandise that's being financialized. We're the merchandise that's being collateralized. And by us taking these steps to secure our privacy and our data, we're saying, hey, we're not going to participate in this any longer. We're not going to be commercialized. We're not going to be financialized. We're not going to be used as collateral and cattle. Because once you become data, my friend, once you have been financialized and collateralized, then you are on the step and on the way to becoming human cattle.
Well,
You're
isn't that like
opting
being mugged?
yourself out.
Isn't that like being mugged? Isn't that being
Absolutely.
mugged by your computer? You got mugged by your computer. We're all getting mugged every day. We
Oh,
accept it.
exactly.
All right, so
Exactly
a lot
right.
of this stuff, people are going, whoa, I'm dizzy. Dee mentioned all these things. What if a person out there, I'm talking to the audience because I know there's some of you out there that would say, well, I'm just going to make an image of the perfect Android phone that's got all the stuff that people like to use, and I'm going to take that image and I'm going to distribute it. Couldn't we just do that? So that way you're not trying to put all the stuff together yourself. We could just make an image of the best phone. You could do 100 different versions of it.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I mean, if I had it my way, John, if I had the capital, I'd actually buy some older Android devices.
Yeah.
Put a custom ROM on it, preloaded with all the software, and I'd sell it out to people for a very reasonable price.
Yeah. Yeah, just update the network.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And people don't realize, I mean, smartphones nowadays are such a commodity. They're so ubiquitous. They're a commodity. They're not what they used to be years ago. I mean, you look at, like, for instance, I love tech, and I'm always screwing around with tech. I always have dozens of phones near me at all times. Right now on my desk, there's One, two, three, four, five. There's 6 phones sitting on my desk right now, and I'm always buying and selling stuff. Um, you know, when you look at the cameras on phones, like I like to take photography and I like a good camera on my phone. People don't realize that uh, camera tech has gotten to be more software oriented than anything else. Like one of the best camera phones out there is the Google Pixel. Well, guess what? The camera software is available for free. Okay, the APK is available for free, and what you can do is just go online, whatever phone you have, you download the APK, and it makes your phone's stock camera improve in a major way. Now you're having great photos, and yeah, there's so many workarounds to this. It just takes the time to learn, and it takes effort, you know. And yeah, we love big tech, and a lot of people, I love big tech, that's great, but there's a cost to using big tech.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine was visiting this weekend, and he was telling me how he got a second router for his at-home router and made it a slave to the first one. And then he was able to hook up his smart TV to that. And even though the smart TV can hear you and it's got a camera, and I'm sure it's collecting everyone's data, his second network became an intranet inside his house. And that data was not able to be captured by his router and sent out of the house. So anyone trying to hack into that system, even if they broke into a system, they would not see any devices on his intranet.
Yep.
I guess that's what you have to do.
Yep. Exactly.
And a VPN, but yeah.
Exactly. So that'd be the way to do it. I mean, people got to unlearn how to utilize the easy, convenient, and very polished, multi-million-dollar, software that they're used to. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I love using Google Maps. Why? It's slick. It's it's clean. But if I really wanted to, keep my privacy in check, I'm going to be using OSMD. OSMD will allow me to it works offline. I can go anywhere in the world, and it even has right now updates for Metro. So if you're in a city location, you want to find out your local Metro, it will show you your Metro maps as well. So there's alternatives. People just got to learn how to change their habits, so to speak, John.
Well, if a lot of us did this, it would change the business model of these companies, I think. And wouldn't it raise prices? Or no? They're already raised, right?
They're already raised, and they're selling it at a higher cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would punish us one way or the other, right?
Yeah, I mean, the selling of data offsets the price. That's what you're giving up.
You hope so. You think so.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's why, right? I mean, that's the reason why in the world you're like, you want a lot of free stuff. Well, guess what? Something has to be sold. And so if there's some kind of underbelly coalition per se, they sell the data to each other so that they can have access to these users, and then potentially they could sell them their products and services. I mean, that's the cost of data. We don't have to give them everything. I think that's what we're saying. I mean, I know you guys make it very abundantly clear about the products you use and all the wonderful things. It's really good to hear from you guys, since you guys are more professionals, to hear why this is something that's kind of been stripped away from us. I mean, yes, we still have it in our purview, but there's no time like the now to start worrying about your privacy, especially with everything going on. Who knows?
Why couldn't we grab data?
Yeah.
We can grab data from Google, grab data from Apple, and then sell it back to them. And we'll promise that if they buy it from us, we won't distribute it. Is that legal? I mean, aren't they doing that to us?
Well, why isn't there a social network of some sort, or just an open network where you can openly sell your data in certain pieces of it? That doesn't really exist. There are a few crypto companies that try to do it through a governance protocol. I don't want to mention them because I don't want to come off as if I'm pushing them, but you guys should look for it. It's not named Arbor. And there's
it's not named Arbor.
There's a few others as well out there. But yeah, I don't know if they would buy it directly. Remember, when you sign up for their account, you're already kind of giving them a lot of stuff. It's kind of like what you guys always say about the social security number, or about why like healthcare is going to ask you for all these things. They don't really need it. They're gonna compile it into a valuable profile, and then they're gonna sell it for top dollar.
All right. Well, I'm talking about collecting actual like trade secrets from these companies and insider board meeting room, conversations.
They make that public.
I know, but some's not. And I would think if they're collecting that data, it's a fair game, right? To collect data from these companies and create a commodity just like they've done with our data, I would think. We have the technology. We could spy on them.
Yeah, it's not be careful what you say anymore. It's be careful what you think, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was saying that as a joke, everybody. Don't be freaked out.
Well, that's good information, V. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that covers that covers the entire gambit. So I mean, that's the truth of it, man. I mean, you want to really lock down your phone. You want the foundation for you to take control of your data has to be with open source software. And when you look at phones, you look at computers, it's anything that's going to be Linux based is going to give you that option. Android is that option.
Well, I'm doing it. I'll need your help though.
Yeah, I'll help you out.
Yeah.
Well, Linux doesn't run off of the x86, right? So doesn't that make it safer because everyone runs off of x86, which is basically them hiding firmware within the chip that could steal your information. I mean, if you really want to think about it, what takes your information has to be stored somewhere, and then it has to be processed, and then that processing has to be passed, right? So it all starts at the core level of your computer. What does it have inside? Well, it has chips, and those chips collect it. And I believe they are all connected off the x86. You guys could correct me. Anyone out there listening. But I think Linux does not run off of that and is not kept up on purpose.
Okay. I wouldn't know.
I'll post the link afterwards. You guys don't like Linux?
I love Linux, man.
I use Linux. I'm using it right now. Yeah.
Talk about it. Shoot, there you go. Why do you use it?
I'm developing something on an x86 device, but this is just a prototype. We don't have to put it on that device. So it uses Linux. I think we have some version of Linux on there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, what Linux flavor do you use, John?
Ubuntu Mate.
Nice. Yeah.
Now that's not what's on this device we're creating. I don't even remember what it's called. But yeah, so we're creating something that can operate like like a shopping cart, like a storefront online. Yeah. So it should have all the encryption. It's got a dead man switch, all kinds of stuff like that.
That's old school.
It's old school stuff.
Wow, dead man switch.
It would have saved Reggie Middleton's butt. I mean, if he had it to where if he were able to log into his access to Veritasium, and the moment he logged in with a certain password, it would lock him out. That's
sick.
Give his access over to an arbitration forum that's in the network, and that arbitration forum wouldn't return it until the threat was gone. The SEC couldn't have threatened him with contempt.
Wow, that's brilliant, Sean. Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I love Linux, man.
Yeah.
It's that whole entire, and that's capable because of the whole entire Unix architecture, which is a door behind a door behind a door behind a door.
Yeah.
And again, the distribution is pretty cool. I mean, I use Linux Mint, another popular distribution.
Right.
Second only to Ubuntu. I mean, it's really good. They're really cool.
Hey, would it be likely possible on Huawei to install like these Tor apps that get you on the Tor network? You could do that, right? Wow.
I believe so.
Wow, you can get on the Tor network with it.
Yeah. If you have the
you just
there's a way to do it.
Yeah, there's Orbot and Orfox. Just download them, I guess. They're compatible with Android. They're written for Android. And then you can get on the dark web.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Because why? Because you can download it. You can go into the settings and then authorize the phone to download from third party applications, and you're good to go.
Huh?
Yeah.
That would be the only dark web phone I've ever heard of. The only phone.
Yeah, it'd be ultimate dark web. And then you clamp it down with the DNS encryption and the NetGuard. That's it. It's done.
Well, the dark web is a whole new world. I mean, gosh, there's stuff over there that you never heard of on the surface web.
That's like 93% of the internet. Isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah, that's insane.
We're only using. People go to Google, Facebook. They go to the internet ghettos and they think, oh, this is the internet. No, you're only using 6% of the internet.
Yeah, and the dark web was the original internet. It was dark. It's always been. They just built this stuff on top of it so everybody could easily use it, like starting with the browsers, Netscape, and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The deep web. That's most of the web now, right?
Deep web. Yeah.
Not the dark web.
Deep dark web. I don't know which is which. Everybody keeps defining it differently.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right, folks. I think that comes to the end of the show. John, thank you for coming on, man, and thank you for
Well, thank you,
you know,
V. That's
hey, no
great info,
problem,
man.
man. No problem. So and again, what John says, like, if the Linux is a great place to start. People got,
Yeah.
you want to download Linux, go ahead. Ubuntu's awesome.
Yeah.
If you like, especially if you're familiar with Windows, Ubuntu's great. I had Zorin. Zorin is just like, if you love the whole entire Windows 10 setup, Zorin is good. Linux Mint is good. If you like Apple, the Mac OS operating system, Elementary OS it's just like Mac OS with a dock and everything. There's so many great options out there. So
Yeah.
go check it out, folks. Take control of your privacy. This is the Gorilla. He is John Singleton, and we are over and out. And Kung Fu, thank you for making this broadcast happen.
Hiya.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, V. That was awesome, man. Good job. That's
No
quite a bit of
problem.
info.
Yeah, it was a little heavy.
That's all right, but it's recorded, so they can play it back. Yeah.
Yeah, they can play it back, take some notes, and practice on how to get this done. It's going to take some effort on their end. Yeah.
I like your idea, though. Take an image of something that really is cool and then just market it. I just don't have time for it. So that's why I wanted to say it. Someone else will do it. I'll just buy it from them.
Dude, if I had it my way, man, I would take a high-end Samsung or a Huawei phone and run a custom ROM on it.
Yeah.
And dude, it'd be like the ultimate private.